in media. A neighbor's choice. I'm your host, David Gornoski. Welcome back to the program. Hope you're doing well. We're live, broadcasting around the I-4 corridor in the Sunshine State and worldwide online on our podcasts, wherever podcasts are found. We're there. Or our video stream on Facebook and YouTube and those platforms. And speak of the devil, that's what we're going to talk about today, is the social media platforms and what they're doing to manipulate the outcome of our elections. Supposed to be a very sacred thing if you listen to the media. Media tells us all day, we got to watch out for who's interfering in our elections, who's messing with us, who's destroying our way of life in our society and our way of thinking critically about elections. Well, what happens is you've got big, giant monopolies like YouTube and Google, Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms. They have been interfering with our election system. And joining us now is someone who's joined me on the program last year. He's joined us again. He's the author of 15 books, researcher at AIBRT.org. Also, you can go to mygoogleresearch.com to see his work. He's the former editor-in-chief of Psychology Today, Dr. Robert Epstein. How you doing?
Very good. It's nice to be back on your show.
Yes, and I'm glad to hear from you because you're one of those rare folks that, you're not motivated by political cynicism. You really just are trying to let the data speak for itself. And you have done some unique and, groundbreaking research as it regards the work that's going on in your team for how Google and some of these other platforms have been manipulating the outcome of elections.
Yes, I've been researching this, in depth and detail since early 2013. I actually got interested in the whole topic the year before, but yes, I've been doing this for a long time now, and it's disturbing, to be honest with you. It's very disturbing, the kinds of things I've found out over the years.
So, what is the latest that you guys have been uncovering in your work? Because it's been a year since I had you on, so I'm sure there's been a lot of things that you've been looking at since we last spoke. So touch on some of the things that have been of highest priority concern for you in your work and how psychological manipulation takes place from these big platforms.
Sure. Well, for one thing, we had started out looking at search results. And it turns out that search results, if they favor one cancer, or for that matter, one dog food or another, they can shift opinions, attitudes, beliefs, purchases, and votes very dramatically without people knowing and without leaving a paper trail. So that's where we started. What's happened and I think I talked about that at length when I was on your show last year. What's happened more recently is that we have been studying more and more new types of manipulation, like the first one, which we call SEME, the Search Engine Manipulation Effect, SEME. The point is that we've actually stumbled onto about a dozen techniques like this now. And so we've been studying them in the usual way, very rigorous, controlled experiments, lots of people all over the U.S. and in some cases all over the world. And, we've been learning more about a number of techniques that not only can be used, but are being used to change opinions and votes without people's knowledge. Most recently, in fact, I'm very excited about this, we've been gearing up over a period of months now to study what I'm calling YME, the YouTube manipulation effect. And as I say, I'm thrilled about this work, and I can't wait until I can, get some solid numbers and report them. But basically, we now understand, we realize that YouTube is an extremely powerful tool for manipulation. extremely powerful, probably more powerful than the search engine itself. Why? Because 70% of the videos that people watch on YouTube around the world are suggested by Google's top secret up next algorithm. That's the algorithm that suggests the next video for you to watch, and then the next one, and the next one. And 70% of the videos people watch are just handed to them by Google. And the reason they do this is because they want to keep you they want to keep you on their platform for as long as possible. So they're giving you videos they think you want to see, but the fact is they're also giving you videos they want you to see. That's the problem.
Yeah, and that's it's been something that we've been looking into as well. What have you seen? Have you looked at all at how they're able to manipulate conversations by making certain opinions just either deleted outright, or you can't find them in searching for them? You know, I did an interview with one of the world's most cited scholars, dead or alive, according to Google Scholar, ironically, Dr. Michael Lasanti. I did an interview with him where we discussed his clinical trials. He had used azithromycin and doxycycline for breast cancer patients. And then we also discussed what he was proposing to use those antibiotics in clinical trials for this new virus. And it's interesting because the video is still up, and it's gotten some traffic because I embedded it into my column that I sent out to different news outlets. But you cannot find it if you type in his name on YouTube. And there's only a few videos that's happened with his name, and I'm not found on the search results. My interview with him isn't. And if you type his name plus my name, basically the entirety of the title of my video, you can't find it anywhere. Have you looked into this phenomenon where they don't outright delete you, so you don't get to use that badge of honor, but they also don't let you be, they don't allow your content to be found, even when you have.
It's called demotion.
Yeah.
They can delete you, but sometimes they just demote you, which does just as much harm. And yes, I've been looking at that issue very carefully for a long time. People who are interested in that issue, which really is basically censorship, I'm going to give you two suggestions, give your listeners two suggestions. One is I published a long investigative article for U.S. News and World Report in 2016, which is called The New Censorship. And it's about 9 of Google's blacklists. And what you're saying is that, you know, this famous scientist you spoke to had somehow gotten his name on one of those blacklists. And those blacklists, they're real. You know, as I say, I wrote about 9 of them in 2016. It wasn't until last year that a whistleblower quit Google and took with him 950 pages of documents and a video. And guess what 2 of those documents were?
What's
they
that?
were blacklists. They're actually called blacklists inside the company.
Yeah.
So, you know, these are real. These are real.
Yeah, this gentleman has 90,000 citations, over 360 peer-reviewed papers published. And,
wow.
You know, and what's weird about it, though, is I don't know if he's on the list or not. Maybe I am, because if you type in his name, you'll find other interviews that he's done on YouTube, but you won't find mine. You won't find mine. It's just down the memory hole as if it never happened. And I'm thinking to myself, something's weird about this platform because, you know, if you're going to shut down, if a man gets 90,000 citations and you can't listen to an interview with him, there's something really demented about whatever system they're using to shut down discussion.
The other place I would send people, by the way, who are interested in the censorship issue is to a recent documentary that was produced by Peter Schweitzer. You might know that name. He's the one who wrote Clinton Cash back in 2016. This documentary film is called The Creepy Line. The Creepy Line. You can learn about it at thecreepyline.com, or if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can actually just watch it for free. And it's also on iTunes, I gather. But The Creepy Line really does a beautiful job of explaining to people the big three threats that these big tech companies pose, not just to democracy, not just to the free and fair election, but even to human autonomy. So I strongly recommend that people watch The Creepy Line. It's a very well done documentary, and it focuses on the surveillance, the censorship, which we just talked about a little bit, and the manipulation. Those are the three scary issues that we need to think about very carefully, because these big tech companies, they're arrogant as can be, they're unregulated, they do exactly what they want to do.
We're speaking with Dr. Robert Epstein. We're going to unpack his work. MyGoogleResearch.com is his website. We're going to find out, he's a Harvard PhD, former editor-in-chief of Psychology Today. We're going to find out more about his implications of his work when we continue live.
A lawsuit is a devastating process for families. It can be an emotional roller coaster ride. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that practices with this in mind. That law firm is Catania & Catania. We know and handle personal injury law for families with care. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania & Catania will take care of the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't even realize they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to us. Catania & Catania only represent private individuals. We treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's our way of practicing law. It's our commitment to you. Remember, we don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning, over 28 years, and family first. Catania & Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
United we stand. That's never been more important than it is today. Now you can show your commitment to our president and the nation with the limited edition Trump 2020 American Eagle Silver Dollars. Show your support with the limited edition American Silver Eagles, specially priced from government.com. Just call 1-800-571-6468. Hold the weight of democracy in your hand with new, perfect, uncirculated condition Silver Eagle coins. These historic coins, signed into law by Reagan, have been America's money since 1986. To secure your new limited edition Trump 2020 American Eagle Silver Dollar coins, call 1-800-571-6468. Call now and we'll give you a free Trump 2020 Patriots Pack, including a Declaration of Independence commemorative and 5 Lincoln cents when you order. Call now to secure your silver dollar coins, plus get your free Trump 2020 Patriots Pack, valued at over $10, free with every order. 1-800-571-6468. That's 1-800-571-6468.
Hey, it's Bubba the Love Sponge. With all the coronavirus stuff going on, you've heard the CDC say wash your hands about a zillion times. You know, studies show that the average person touches their face 23 times an hour. Your nose, eyes, and mouth, that's called the T-zone. And the T-zone is the most important area to keep clean. And for over 12 years, there's this product called TheraWorks Protect. It's been used by millions of emergency room patients and medical clinics to support infection prevention. TheraWorks Protect is easy to use, and it's safe to apply several times a day on your hands and around your nose and eyes and mouth, better known again as the T-zone. Just apply a small amount into your hand and rub it in until it dries, and then apply another amount and rub it all over your T-zone. You know, finding hand sanitizer sometimes can be difficult, and now you can order TheraWorks Protect online. Just get it directly from them. Go to TZoneProtect.com and use the Bubba Kicker. When you use the Bubba /, you're going to get 20% off and free freight, and you're going to have it in a few days. Again, TZoneProtect.com /Bubba. Start protecting yourself and the ones that you love now.
Our Neighbor's Choice returns I'm David Gornoski, your host, and we're talking about social media and how these platforms are manipulating elections, how they're surveilling our lives, and what we can possibly do about it. We're here with Dr. Robert Epstein. He's a former editor-in-chief of Psychology Today. He's authored 15 books. He's an award-winning psychologist. He's a researcher at AIBRT.org. You can go to mygoogleresearch.com, if that's easy to remember, mygoogleresearch.com, to see his latest work. And he's someone that calls it like he sees it as he looks at the data about what these platforms are doing to our society. Dr. Epstein, it's been in the news a lot today. Trump's basically declared war on Twitter after they fact-checked one of his tweets. Have you looked at Twitter, or has your primary focus been Google?
We have, in fact, branched out well beyond Google because, for example, Facebook has at least 5 ways, at least 5 that we know of shifting votes and opinions on a massive scale without people knowing and without leaving paper trails. So we've branched out to Facebook. We have branched out to Twitter because Twitter also has ways of influencing opinions and votes. One of the simplest methods is called shadow banning, which means, let's say that my friend Ann Coulter, I'm not a conservative, by the way, but Ann is my friend, and let's say Ann has 1 million followers on Twitter, and she sends out a tweet, and she naturally hopes it reaches all of her followers, and then she gets no retweets, let's say, no likes. So she ends up concluding, she asks around, she ends up concluding that a lot of her followers are not getting her tweets. And one of the leaks from Twitter was, in fact, supported this practice, which is done within the company. And in these leaks, you actually saw employees of Twitter saying, yeah, we do that all the time. So, yes, we branched out to a number of different tech companies. By far, though, the worst threat to democracy is Google. Facebook comes in a close second. And then the other platforms are much smaller, but they still have an impact. But yeah, Twitter, absolutely. I mean, these are people who work for these companies, and people, generally speaking, have political viewpoints, and they act on those. I have a political viewpoint, which I act on when I vote, but when I'm doing research, I report what I find. And what I find is disturbing because it shows that these companies have very strong political leanings in one direction, and they act on that bias. They act on that bias in very, very dramatic ways. So they have the ability this year to shift 15 million votes for whichever presidential candidate they want.
Yeah, and I'm sure you get the same treatment that another Democrat scholar, Alan Dershowitz, he got really blacklisted by his fellow Democrat and leftist friends. And I think you've probably experienced the similar kind of blacklisting experience, huh?
I got blacklisted by my own sister.
Wow.
So, yeah, of course it's tough. It's very, very tough. And, and the fact is, and it's really terrible to say this, but it's the truth. A man who's become a very, very good friend of mine. He's a conservative, lives in D.C. He told me once over dinner, he said, all these conservatives who are saying nice things about you, he said, they're just using you. They'll drop you in a minute. They'll drop you in a minute because they don't like your politics at the moment, which you're saying, serves their needs. And it's a shame, but that is the way the world works. The point is, I don't bring my politics into my research. Right. If my research says that votes are being shifted to Democratic candidates, I'm going to report that. I'm going to report precisely what I found. And let me tell you this: there's a larger problem here that goes way beyond us and our elections and our politics, because Google doesn't favor Democrats or lefties around the world. They do in the United States. In Cuba, they support the conservatives, the right wing in Cuba. In China, they support the dictatorship, period. And they help the dictatorship, conduct surveillance on the Chinese population. In other words, they do whatever they feel like doing country by country, and that's the problem. The problem is that these companies have too much power, no constraints whatsoever, and they have the power to shift massive numbers of votes in elections around the world. I calculated some time ago, as of 2015, that Google alone was determining the outcomes of upwards of 25% of the national elections in the world. That's because a lot of elections are very close, and Google can shift the opinions of undecided voters very, very easily. 25% of the national elections in the world. See, there's a bigger problem here. That's the problem. It's a huge problem. Right. And, we can't let our politics get in the way here of finally, taking these companies to task, limiting their powers. They should not have such power. They're not accountable to the public, period.
Yeah, it's really troubling to see that it's so monolithic in Silicon Valley. Why do you think it is that they've decided to be really biased in favor of, let's say, moderate, leftism in the American situation? They just think it's a more powerful place to be politically?
It just has to do with the people they hire. They're hiring people who are like them. And so 97% of the donations from Google go to Democrats. Those are the people who work there, and they hire more of the same. It's pretty simple.
Well, we're here with Dr. Robert Epstein talking about the surveillance, the manipulation, and election interference taking place in Silicon Valley right now, and it seems like it's only going to get worse unless folks start doing something to change this. So we're going to get into what we can do to possibly change this situation for the better. In the meantime, check out mygoogleresearch.com. That's Dr. Robert Epstein's website, mygoogleresearch.com. We'll continue in just a moment on A Neighbor's Choice.
Special report, coronavirus update. The coronavirus death toll in the U.S. is near the 100,000 mark, a figure that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi addressed with unease.
Little did we know that we would be coming here almost at the exact time when our country would be registering 100,000 people dying from the coronavirus. 100,000 people in about 100 days.
The U.S. death toll at this hour, 99,983. Industries from tech to heavy industry are trying to figure out how to get back to business with COVID-19 still a threat. Boeing says it is to cut more than 12,000 jobs from layoffs and buyouts as the pandemic impacted the travel industry. Meanwhile, a new survey finds only half of Americans may be willing to get vaccinated if scientists are successful in developing a vaccine. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Every home has a to-do list. That leaky drain, bare spots on the lawn, repainting the trim. To finally get that to-do list done, call in a pro. Over the past 20 years, HomeAdvisor has connected over 100 million homeowners with trusted local pros. And during these times, we're making it easier than ever for great pros to join the HomeAdvisor network. For a limited time, home service businesses can get $200 in free advertising. Visit HomeAdvisor.com/start for details. That's HomeAdvisor.com/start.
I've got a snack that'll add a little kaboom to your keto diet. Or would that be keto boom? Either way, Southern Recipe small batch pork rinds have the bold flavor that outshines other low-carb snacks. And if keto's not your thing, you'll still love the high protein these rinds deliver. Flavors like Korean kimchi barbecue, honey chipotle, pineapple ancho chili, and more. Visit porkrinds.com to find your flavor boom.
Visit porkrinds.com today for your Southern Recipe small batch pork rinds.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. David Gornoski here. We're here with Dr. Robert Epstein, who's the author of 15 books, Harvard PhD, and he's the founder of MyGoogleResearch.com, taking on, using data, the bad influence of social media platforms in our society. One thing I wanted to look at, I saw that you had tweeted about this, which is our car has become a surveillance tool for many folks. You know, right now, as we're talking, there are many people in their cars driving and listening to us. So many of our audience are in cars right now. How are their cars a surveillance tool? Well, maybe we have, see if we can reconnect. But there's this article here that I've been looking at on CNN.com about how your car has been used as a surveillance tool, something that I think we need to take a look at. If you're driving in a car and they can know where you're going or listen to the conversations you're having and use it for advertisers or whatever else they want to play around with, then that's always going to be a problem for privacy. That's something that I think we have to have a handle on in this country if we're going to have a free society, is know how people are listening to us and how our cars, even where you think you can have a conversation, can be used in a way that extracts your data, takes your information. That's one thing that I think we have to be mindful of in the future. One of the things that is another problem is the as Dr. Epstein said, the manipulation of elections. The YouTube algorithm has been, of course, biasing establishment left of center media outlets whenever you search for any topic. And that's a problem, because if you can't even get a balanced perspective on news of the day, then how do you have a free press? If you're only selecting a few establishment media outlets that give you one narrow perspective on viruses, on terrorism, on spending, on debt, on money, on technology, on human liberties, on police actions and laws and regulations. If you're only getting one perspective curated for you, then you don't really have access to a free flow of information in the public square. And I think that's a real terrible kind of place to be when we're having an election where we're supposed to have a free flow of information. If you don't have a free flow of information, that's not going to be a place that you can have, a balanced perspective. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Twitter acting as unelected bureaucracies on the side of not only domestic bureaucracies, but also foreign bureaucracies. And it's something that is just a nonsensical thing to imagine, that we can continue to go down this path and not have a totalitarian type or authoritarian type government. The question is, what do you do about it? I've heard some people suggest that the only thing you can do about it is to create a new social media platform. The problem is the ones that have been tried, so far the ones that I've seen seem to be kind of lacking in inspiration in terms of a dramatic improvement in innovating and taking the technology of social media to another playing field. If all you can do is just imitate the design and the utility of, Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, but not actually make it a lot more better experience, then it's going to be difficult to actually get people to be moving in mass to your platform. And then even if you do have a qualitatively superior technology platform for your social media alternative, then you're also going to have to overcome the problem of the network effect, that so many people get so used to having all of their friends and enemies and all their discussions on the platforms we have on Facebook and Twitter and so forth, that there's such a critical mass of traffic that it has its own inertia that makes it difficult for human beings to mimetically move into a new path, move into a new direction. Now, could someone like President Trump change that? If he were to say, I'm going on a new platform and here it is, and I'm not going to be on Twitter anymore. First of all, that'd be a very dramatic, risky move on him politically because of the nature of his following, that independency on Twitter he's used. But that's the kind of thing that might create a little bit of a momentum for a new alternative platform. But if it's associated politically at its very core to something as divisive as a presidential, candidate for an election like in 2020 here, or a partisan feel, it will never reach that critical mass of getting that number up to a level where people who are not political will want to move over and make that new platform their home. So, for example, if Trump says, I'm going to this platform, this is my new home instead of Twitter, it's going to be difficult for that platform to overcome the shadow of that persona branding onto that platform from the beginning. And then that will create the effect of an echo chamber wherein Trump fans and people adjacent to that kind of group will kind of ghettoize themselves in that new platform, and it won't reach across and create the critical mass use that would be necessary to be a real competitor against these big social media platforms. So it's a real weird spot people are in. I don't think the legislative efforts to make these platforms utilities that will be regulated by government will be any real value because, again, government bureaucracies, federal bureaucracies are lauded and loved by these social media platforms. So if you're going to have federal bureaucracies directly involved in the maintenance and upkeep of these platforms as utilities, you can rest assured that these platforms are not going to be more fair and balanced against alternatives to big pharma or big media or big business like they are now. They are obviously left of center, which means their big business interests are aligned with the Democratic Party and those types of adjacent big business industries around it. And they throw a token bone to establishment conservative types every now and then just to make the illusion that they're fair. But they don't have the agenda of liberty in mind. They don't have, they used to be. That's the funny thing, is that these platforms were synonymous with this libertarian Wild West brand that the internet had in the early 2000s and so on, up until this 2016 election. They were synonymous with the Wild West ethos of libertarian thinking. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter were synonymous with the Ron Paul movement and all these different things. That's what dominated those platforms was, alternative media channels and kind of a libertarian populist energy to a lot of the successful channels on, for example, YouTube. But that, has quickly given way to this curated form wherein conservative channels are deplatformed or, shadow banned or all the other little words they use. And I don't think crying to government to have them turn these things into utilities is going to be the right solution. I do think having some legislative effort, maybe at a state level, where you could allow these people to be considered platform or publishers rather than public message forums. I think they are clearly showing their true colors to be publishers. If you were to allow them to be publishers, that would open up liability like every other publisher has to go through, and that would give the opportunity for a more fair playing field for everybody else. If everybody else, including Fox News and your local newspaper and CNN and so on, if they get to play by the rules of a publisher, then that means if YouTube and other platforms are using their websites to eliminate anything that goes against the WHO, which was wrong, dramatically wrong on many things, and they're eliminating internet discussions about epidemiologists that dissent from the WHO's perspective, or doctors who dissent from the perspective of whatever narrow ideology they prefer. They're clearly a publisher, and I think they should be treated as such. So that's one area that I think needs to be thought about more, and something that I've been exploring in my own analysis of this ongoing situation. But we need to always think, while those rear guard actions are good, we need to have a forward-looking perspective that's looking at, okay, well, what is that next way to distribute content that we haven't thought about before that might make Facebook and YouTube and these platforms look antiquated? Because ultimately, freedom, creativity, that's the thing that's going to pull us out of these ruts. And you have to take the time and the risk of creating those bold new ideas that bring us into the future and allow us to bypass these gatekeepers of free discourse. We can't just sit by and allow this. We have to push back. We'll take a quick break and we'll continue live on A Neighbor's Choice.
A lawsuit is a devastating process for families. It can be an emotional roller coaster ride. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that practices with this in mind. That law firm is Catania & Catania. We know and handle personal injury law for families with care. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania & Catania will take care of the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't even realize they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to us. Catania & Catania only represent private individuals. We treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's our way of practicing law. It's our commitment to you. Remember, we don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning, over 28 years, and family first. Catania & Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Attorney spokeswoman.
Man, how can you afford gas for that big SUV? I pay less for gas than everyone else. I got the free Get Upside Gas app and get up to 25 cents a gallon cash back every time I buy gas. Hold on. You're getting up to 25 cents off a gallon with the free Get Upside Gas app while I'm paying full price? You know it. People earned over $1 million last year. You just got to take a picture of your gas receipt and bam, up to 25 cents a gallon cash back. You don't have to tell me twice. I'm downloading the free Get Upside Gas app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code TRUCK for a 20-cent a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 45 cents a gallon on your next tank. Just download the free Get Upside app at the App Store or Google Play and use promo code TRUCK. Save money on gas on every fill-up. Download the free Get Upside app and use promo code TRUCK. That's TRUCK.
Thanks for listening to 1040 WHBO. We've seen unprecedented growth in listening over the last several months. Our ad partners are experiencing great success, and we thank you for supporting the many advertisers on this station. If you own a business or handle the marketing for a business, contact us. We'll get your message across the many platforms we own. 813-250-3883. That's 813-250-3883. Or send us a note, web@radiogenesis.com. That's web@radiogenesis.com.
Homeowners, do you have trees that are dangerously close to your home that can do a lot of damage?
Oops.
Well, ABC 12 Tree offers experienced, fully insured professionals at honest, affordable prices. Their equipment is state-of-the-art. They use the safest practices in the industry. They have 5-star Google reviews. ABC 12 Tree only employs certified arborists. Call them at 727-522-8733. That's 727-522-8733. Or go to abc12tree.com.
Trump vows to close down Twitter. So this is the kind of discourse that we have. You know, this has nothing to do with a free society when you have a president saying he's going to shut down a whole platform or something that disagrees with them. That's not the way we're going to have success in our country. Our country has to have freedom sort out these problems. We cannot have a society where people are always going to government to say, okay, look, well, they're biased, therefore let's shut them down, let's regulate them, let's do something in a way that turns them into a government agency. I don't agree with that. I think, maybe allowing them to play by the same market rules that a publisher has to play by when it comes to liability, that's one thing. But the notion that we can shut down platforms is, I think, obviously a degradation of where we need to go in this situation. Another area that I think we need to look at is the speculation swirling about the next Supreme Court vacancy. On the Hill, they've got an article about it where there's a lot of talk that perhaps on the prospect that Justice Clarence Thomas could exit while Republicans control the White House and Senate. And alternatively, there's been a look at some of the folks like Ruth Bader Ginsburg who are getting up there in age that may want to retire at some point. And that's always something that's a real contested, again, something that tears the country apart whenever we have these discussions about who will be a judge. And again, don't we see what this reveals to us? Don't we see the mirror that we see in front of us here? That if you have so much riding on government to decide laws by fiat with the Supreme Court the way they have acted in the last several decades, or, presidents that can make executive orders or send us into war without congressional approval, then you're going to have this situation time and time again where people are tearing each other apart because the stakes are too high to live in a society where winner takes all. So president wins and therefore executive orders fly, bureaucracies are enriched. They always expand and create more rules and regulations. Nothing's ever cut. Wars continue without congressional approval. And then you have these Supreme Court picks, which are like this dictator-like power where these people can decide the fate of 50 different states that are supposed to have autonomy. According to the 9th and 10th Amendment, there should be a lot of the things the Supreme Court has been ruling on should never have ever gotten into the purview of the federal courts to begin with. But that's where we're at when you have such a fixation in our culture for government to save us in every issue. And we have to learn to move away from that. We have to learn to look towards a little closer to home, something a little bit more manageable, something more human-sized, something more neighborly, which is our families, our communities, the places we live. That's where we should try to look for solutions. Politics is only going to bring out the worst of us. And I have no interest in, looking to the Supreme Court to save me. I don't think some guys in some robes up there and girls are going to decide. Guys and gals in robes are not going to decide the future of society. It's going to have to come from people in spontaneous, ideas, inventions, skin in the game, trial and error. That's the thing that's going to make this thing work in our society. It's not going to come from some people from on high who make decisions for 330 million people. So it's our choice how we want to play this. We have an addiction to politics, but I think a lot of us in our society are starting to wake up. And hey, I think a lot of people have already, checked out of politics a long time ago. A lot of people don't vote, but that doesn't mean they're not politically involved. It just means they don't play around with, voting for, lesser of two evils or hating their neighbor over political tribalism. So I think perhaps the vast majority of America could be closer to checking out of politics in terms of looking to them for solutions than we might believe. But who knows? The future is wide open, and it's not set in stone how it all works out in the details. It's up to us to get in there and shake things up for freedom. When I look at what comes out of D.C. on a daily basis, I don't feel encouraged that, just one more election and then, we'll have our problem solved. If we can sanction China all these little things, we got to beat them and do that and go to war and all this stuff with this country or that country. I don't know. I understand people's cry for those things, but I don't really see how that's actually going to help people in real life. Punishing this group, punishing that country, sanctioning that group, invading this country. What are we doing in Yemen right now, for example? Does anybody know where Yemen is? Hardly anybody could probably tell us where Yemen is and what's happening over there. And it's just a matter of I guess numbing out because we don't want to see what we're doing. We're blockading. We're participating in a terrible protracted starvation campaign in Yemen. For what? For some kind of Machiavellian thing. And this is not what America First was about. This was not what, taking care of our country and not getting involved in costly wars. There's another way to measure the cost of war besides just, the direct financial cost and the human life cost. There's also the moral cost of what it does to the moral fiber of a society that allows, a country like Yemen to be starved on behalf of Saudi Arabia, and we're providing support for them to do that. What does that do for the soul of a nation when we do this over and over again? How long can we do this and wash our hands of the things we're doing and expect to have a sane society? No wonder, as these wars continue to go on and on and on, our society continues to look more and more insane in the way we treat each other back home. Maybe there's a connection there. Maybe our addiction to endless interventions overseas has a tie-in to the way we continue to treat each other so awfully, sending police to every nonviolent choice you can imagine and every regulation choice you make. Sending, hate mobs around Twitter. Millions of people trying to get people fired and lose their whole everything with no remorse and no opportunity for mercy or forgiveness. Just utter mob ugliness. And I think we can all agree that whatever your political ideology is, none of us like mob actions. None of us like it when a crowd gets caught up in a righteous fervor of anger and aggression and wants to destroy without any remorse somebody. We all know viscerally that's evil and it should be avoided. But when are we going to start to realize that the way we do politics is just the same thing, just with a sports coat on it? It's the same mob-like mass behavior of we gotta win. We've got to beat and destroy the enemy. But it's just dressed up with the pomp and circumstance of the voting rights that we do. Maybe politics itself, at its heart, is mob action. Maybe we need to look outside to solutions beyond politics if we want to have a sane and moral society. Because the way we're going, I think the mob heart of politics is revealing itself ever more. It used to be able to contain itself and decorum. But now, because Trump has ripped the veneer of decorum off and the left has responded in insane ways accordingly, it's created this situation where you can't look at it the same anymore. You can't look at politics and say, oh, that's an alternative to mob justice. No, it is mob justice. I mean, it's petty. Millions of people want to lock up people for nothing other than the fact that they're associated with a candidate that they've been told they have to hate. And the same goes for either side in some ways. Some of them have real reasons, some of them don't. Doesn't matter. It's that appetite to beat and shame and scandalize and destroy the other that's at the heart of politics. So what are we going to do? Are we going to enjoy it? Are we going to just participate in it and just keep slinking back into the crowd and going along with the circus and the madness? We know it doesn't make us feel better. We know it doesn't really satisfy us. We know that the more we look at it, the more it repulses us. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we have some real hard choices to make, don't we? Because we got a lot of problems to solve. We got jobs people need and freedom people need. And people need solutions for medicine. They need solution for energy and pollution. Maybe we'll have to just do it ourselves. I'm David Gornoski. Godspeed.